second part of a two-part complaining session I'm doing about China. If you missed the first part, you might want to hunt that down so you have a context for what I'm talking about here. Alright, this is a fun one. I've seen the people drunkenly urinate in the streets in other countries. In Cambodia, I saw it quite a bit, to be honest with you. It's gross, but I can almost just say, okay, whatever, it's sort of excusable. China takes this prospect to an entirely new level, with people urinating in places you'd expect to be respected in their country. For instance, we saw groups of people inside of the Forbidden City just peeing on the walls. Like, let's just go to one of the biggest things in our country that we're known for, and let's just urinate on the walls, because who cares? By the way, there's bathrooms in there, so they don't really have an excuse. It's also very common to see children of both sexes up to the age of 9 or 10 urinating in the sidewalk, like a busy sidewalk in Beijing. You're walking through like the area where all the shopping is and all the really nice clothing stores are and everything, and there'll be a 9-year-old girl popping a squat in the middle of the sidewalk, peeing all over the place. And it's just like, again, there's public bathrooms all over the place. Why have they decided that this needs to be something that needs to happen? I have no idea why it hasn't left their behavior. It's just stunning. It's also see little kids, smaller children, on the streets, and they'll have a slit in the back of their pants, and that's so that when they want to do a poo in public on the sidewalk, it's not hard. They don't have to take their drawers down. So I mean, it's a common thing to see smaller children, like 3 years old, with a slit in the back of the pants, and they'll be on the sidewalk and they'll be doing their business, like right there. So I mean, if you step in poo when you're walking down the street in China, it's probably not a dog's. It's pretty gnarly. One time we saw a child inside of a Walmart urinating into a bucket, and then they just left the bucket, and his dad was there with him. It wasn't like a little kid acting a fool. Like, this was an adult was making this decision. And I mean, there's bathrooms in the Walmart just like there are in the States. So you can tell that the government is actually like working towards stopping this issue, because there's free public bathrooms everywhere. But you still see it constantly. Like, you will see somebody urinating or defecating in public on a daily basis in Beijing. I don't know what else to say about that. But you'd think that if there were free bathrooms everywhere, they'd be bothering to use them. Oh, another thing. This one ties in with animals and pee. We saw an old man walking down the street with his dog on a leash, and the dog was peeing onto a motorcycle's, like they put a lock through the wheel so you can't steal the motorcycle. The dog was peeing onto the lock, where a stranger was going to later have to come and put his hands all over this lock and unlock his thing. And the man was just standing there like, okay, yeah, you can pee on this. And that's just, I mean, that's the disrespectful, disgusting urination, and not really abusive to animals, but come on, man, control your dog. Waiting in a line for something in Asia is trying on your patience in just about any country you go to, especially in Southeast Asia. And working when we were in Hong Kong, we had this a little bit, but China is nuts. Cutting in line is no big deal, and that's an Eastern Asian thing, anyways. People cut in line a lot. They stand a lot closer to each other, which is awkward for Westerners. And I mean, that's all fine, whatever. I can deal with all that. In China, though, they will stand against each other and then lean and push into each other. And if they have the ability to cut in front of somebody, they will push them over and get in front of them. And it doesn't matter if this is an elderly person or anything. Like, if grandma's in the way, she's hitting the floor. Like, they are very, very, very aggressive, to the point of they'll be trampling over people. And I remember when we were at the Forbidden City in Beijing, and Katie was getting the tickets. It was literally like a mosh pit. Like, people were climbing over each other to get tickets and then to get out. And it's just step back a little bit. Like, that's all it takes. And they're it's very aggressive, and again, disrespectful. They don't care how their behavior affects anybody else. They just want their ticket. And though if there's a gap in the line, they run like as fast as they can, pushing people out of the way. It doesn't matter. it's just overtly intense to get a ticket that they're not going to sell out of, and you're in a line with a bunch of elderly people that are part of the problem. I mean, they're pushing and knocking each other over, and it's something. I realize we're from a different culture, and things are different everywhere in the world. We try our best not to hold other places to our cultural set of rules, because I mean clearly that's not fair. You don't go to another country and be like, oh, you should act like this. But there's limits on how far a person can tolerate the misbehavior of a group of people that's just blatantly being disrespectful to everybody around. I'm really glad we went to China, because I'm glad I understand that now. I understand how China is. I think it's important to get that, but it was miserable to be in. Mostly in Beijing was miserable. Maybe that was the end of our trip, so maybe it was just that had gotten old there. By then, I don't know, but it seemed worse there. The general consensus we came up with is that the general population of China behaves as a group of 6-year-olds. Nearly no thought goes into how a person's behavior is going to affect people around them. It's really astonishing. It's just do what matters for you, and if it works out good, great. But if you have to cut off somebody else's legs to make it happen, screw them. They were in the way. I mean, it really feels like that's like the thought process. I mean, that's a little exaggerated, clearly, but like that it really feels like what you're around all of the time. The flip side of this is on a daily basis. Personal interactions with other people, specifically, oddly enough, people in the tourism industry are really, really nice, and they will go out of their way to help you. And it's like hostels and stuff that are for foreigners and stuff. The people that work there are very nice people, and I've met other people traveling that are from China that I thought were very, very intelligent and very nice people. So it's not a thing where I think that everybody in China is a disgusting pig. I think that the general population gives them a pretty bad name for the way that they behave. And I think the nice people are massively outgunned by the people in the streets staring and laughing and taking pictures and pooping and all of the other disrespectful, disgusting things that they do. For a while, we thought we were going crazy. We thought we'd been traveling for, at that point, like 7.5, 8 months. Maybe we just gotten sick of this. Maybe we need to go home. I mean, all these things crossed our minds, and then we started talking to other people that have been traveling too. We've met a couple from New Zealand and some people from the UK, and they would like verbatim say the exact same things that we had been like astonished about, the way people would treat us, or the behaviors that we saw, or the disrespect and mistreatment of animals. And I mean, these people would, for exactly the same words we'd been using, say the same thing. So I really don't think it's just us. I think that it's Westerners in China it's a difficult place to wrap your mind around. Needless to say, there's a lot of places in this world, and I don't plan a return trip to China anytime soon. If somebody told me right now that they could pay me $100,000 a year for some job in Beijing or something, I would tell them where to stuff it. No way would I go back to Beijing.